Yeah, you got me. Yes. Yes. Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter talking at my normal speaking voice. Yep. Okay. Right now, on the National Weather Desk, a winter storm rolls across northern states, bringing snow just in time for the Thanksgiving travel rush.
Winter storm warning for the county shaded in pink here.
While in Alabama,
it's roaring in.
Severe storms topple trees, sending some crashing into homes.
This is my son's room. The roof, I guess, just fell in on him.
Could winds ground giant balloons in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? And speaking of the holiday, what kind of weather did the Pilgrims face at the very first Thanksgiving?
The actual winter when the Pilgrims came over was not that unusually cold.
Plus, making sure your car is ready for winter weather.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. The storm that brought wintry weather to the northern plains is now heading east. This morning, 6 to 8 inches of snow was on the ground across northern Minnesota. Later today, the system will be over the Great Lakes, where winter storm warnings and winter weather alerts cover much of Wisconsin and Michigan. By tomorrow morning, the storm will be near New York State. Lake effect snow warnings are issued for several areas where up to 20 inches could fall. We have two reports this morning on how the weather is impacting holiday travel. We start with Amy Kiley.
Some Thanksgiving travelers face brutal snowstorms and blizzards today. An Arctic blast is continuing across the northern U.S. The North Dakota Highway Patrol says several roads near Fargo closed yesterday. The National Weather Service reports at least 8 inches of snowfall in parts of that state. Officials say semi-trucks jackknifed and blocked this road in Minnesota, leading to a long pileup of vehicles, but no injuries. Despite the threat, AAA says most Thanksgiving travelers choose to drive. It says that gives them flexibility.
If you're watching the weather and perhaps the day you want to leave or come back, there's bad weather, you have that control.
At several major airports today, forecasters expect possible travel delays and cancellations. That's the outlook for Chicago, Boston, New York, and farther down the East Coast. Meteorologists say a fresh round of snow is hitting some northwestern airports. The other concern today is bitter cold. It's spreading east and south. Forecasters say blustery wind is making things worse. This teenage founder of a nonprofit is helping her Kansas City community prepare.
We started with blankets and sleeping bags. As we've grown, we've done more things like gloves, stocking hats, socks, and sometimes even hand warmers.
Winter storm warning for the county shaded in pink here.
They say the roads should be clear up until noon. After that, people driving to the east side of the state should still plan to drive slow, but anyone on the west side, especially along the lakeshore or traveling I-94, should be ready for a wintry blast.
We're fully staffed. We're ready to go as soon as the snow starts falling.
Where local road commissions handle the county roads, Nick Sharippa with the Michigan Department of Transportation's Southwest region says MDOT crews take on all the state roads and highways. He says when a rainy mix is forecasted, strategies change. Salt tends to scatter and wash away without snow buildup, so in that case, he says, snowplow operators use other tools like scrapers instead.
Really is no safer place to be than a couple hundred yards behind a plow.
He says, pack your patience and winter emergency essentials to help ensure you make it home for the holiday safely.
I think most people, if they're smart, they'll be fine, but who knows what the weather's going to bring.
Meantime, severe thunderstorms rolled through the south on Tuesday. The hardest hit areas were in Alabama, where the wind knocked down trees and damaged homes.
It's roaring in. Hail. Big time RFD.
That's storm chaser Brett Adair as he drove through the storm. And by the way, RFD stands for rear flank downdraft. And you can see just how intense the rain was, but it was the strong winds that caused the biggest problems. And here's what it looked like from the sky. Large trees toppling in the wind, some crashing through homes, others taking down power lines. The view from the ground shows cars were no match for the heavy tree limbs and trunks. A woman whose home was severely damaged by the storm gave Brett a tour.
So you saw this happen?
Yes, I happened to get out of bed and I didn't know what was going on. I just kind of stood here for a second and I was just looking around, and then all of a sudden this whole portion of the house just starts coming in. This is my son's room, and he was laying in this bed. He's 8 years old. The roof, I guess, just fell in on him, and my husband had to come and dig him out of this. He is thankfully unharmed, not a scratch on his little body.
Remarkably, there are no reports of serious injuries or deaths. The National Weather Service heading to the scene today to determine if it was in fact a tornado. And wind could threaten the iconic balloons that fly in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Minnie Mouse, Spider-Man, Paw Patrol, and 31 other giant balloons will be grounded or flown closer to the ground if sustained winds are higher than 23 miles per hour or gusts surpass 34 miles per hour. 1971 was the only year the large balloons didn't fly at all. Back in 1997, strong wind gusts made it tough for the handlers to control some of the balloons. 2 people were hurt when the Cat in the Hat balloon struck a lamppost. And a sigh of relief after a woman and 3 of her grandchildren who went missing in a South Carolina state park were found safe. Search and rescue crews found them 20 hours after a brief emergency phone call. And Helene played a role more than a year after that devastating storm. Gracie Palmer has the story.
At around 6:50 Monday evening, the Greenville County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from Caesars Head State Park.
It was a fairly younger child that was actually on the phone call.
That child, 11-year-old Michael Lawton, lost while hiking with his grandmother and 2 other children. He said on the call that he had only 4% left on his phone, just enough to give directions. A search effort began Monday night with canine units, helicopters, and drones on site. The hikers identified as 53-year-old Tonda Michelin, 14-year-old Melody Bangs, 11-year-old Michael Lawton, and 9-year-old Dale Moser. Crews found the grandmother's car, a white Nissan, at the Raven Falls trailhead. At around 2 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, the Greenville County Sheriff's Office announced that the grandmother and children were all found safe on the Bill Kimball Trail with no major injuries. The sheriff said they were found in very rugged terrain, which they had to be helicoptered out of.
Hurricane Helene turned over a bunch of trees that are still down there and covered a lot of those trails up. So there's some signs that are gone.
From across the state line, the Cedar Mountain Fire Department covers the area.
If an inexperienced hiker got in there and was not paying attention, especially in the dark, you could fall several hundred feet in a couple of places.
Cedar Mountain Fire Department told me that it's easy for hikers to get lost on those trails. And since Helene, some of the trails are even washed away.
We stress to hikers, number one, when they go into the woods, especially if it's an area that they're not familiar with, to make sure that they're prepared.
And some troubling trends at the Great Lakes. Yeah, there's still plenty of water in Lake Michigan, but levels are dropping. Meteorologist Ethan Foreman has more.
Heather Smith with the Watershed Center in Traverse City says that this drop we are seeing is normal this time of year, but the speed of how fast we are dropping is unusual and concerning.
Lake Michigan and Lake Huron are still above the lowest low on record. We have about 1.5 feet to go before we reach that lowest low on record. However, we are predicted to fall into the winter.
Smith says in 2019 and 2020, we were close to near record highs.
What researchers and practitioners are understanding is that climate change is having an impact on our water levels. So we're switching between the highs and the low quicker, and we're expected to have higher highs and lower low.
The last few months saw one of the biggest drops in a short period of time.
We were down several inches in September, when typically we don't see that kind of steep decline. So I think it's a lot more evident to folks that water levels are dropping because it's happening really rapidly.
These water levels will likely start to climb after all the snow melts in the spring.
We usually experience our lowest low of the year in the winter, and then we're rising through the spring and the summer.
And take a look at this. Rescuers in Vietnam used a drone to rescue a farmer after he was trapped in rising floodwaters last week. The farmer had been working in his field when a river flooded its banks and stranded him. The drone was used after officials determined the river was flowing too fast to use a boat. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll hear from an expert about what the weather was like at the very first Thanksgiving.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We're tracking a pretty mild day in the Northeast. Most of the area will top out in the 50s to near 60 degrees. Northern New England will be cooler simply because there's a warm front bisecting New England. This is all during the late morning and midday today. The steady rain from last night has moved out. There's a chance for a few showers. A cold front moves through during the overnight hours tonight. That puts an end to the party as far as the warm temps go. At Thanksgiving looks windy with snow getting going back into western parts of New York.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Some clouds and fog lingering around for your Wednesday morning. A few showers as well. Once the front clears the area, we'll see temperatures drop dramatically. But before that, it could actually warm up considerably for many areas along the coastline on Wednesday. Thursday looks dry, but much colder and windier. Again, highs Wednesday afternoon, upper 60s, even close to 70 degrees, except behind the front in the mountains where it will drop very quickly. We'll start in the 30s, highs in the 40s on Thursday.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. A cold front boundary is moving its way east heading into Wednesday. This will usher in much drier conditions for the Mississippi River Valley through the day Wednesday. Rain moves in for parts of the Carolinas through Wednesday afternoon, and then that front will move across the state of Florida on Thanksgiving Day before the cooler, drier air filters in by Friday. Most of the southeast experiencing sunshine heading into Wednesday afternoon with a chance for rain across the Carolinas.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Many of us remember the story of the Pilgrims' first winter at Plymouth as being harsh with cold, blustery conditions. The settlement occurred during a period called the Little Ice Age. Emily Gracie spoke to a paleoclimatologist who says the Pilgrims' first year in the New World wasn't as extreme as the history books would lead you to believe.
As it turns out, the actual winter when the Pilgrims came over was not that unusually cold for that Little Ice Age period. But compared to now, it certainly was colder.
Okay, and how do we know this if we don't have, National Weather Service records that go back this far?
Well, so there are written records, of course, on both sides of the Atlantic. There are diaries and things like that, documents. Some interesting source actually is artwork. There have been artists have gotten together, art historians, and they compare paintings of life in Europe through the centuries. And then there's the raw science. So you can look at things like tree rings.
How does a tree ring take you from 1620 to that specific winter? How can you narrow down to that 1 year in this long record and say this winter wasn't that extreme?
Well, I've got a little tree slice here. We do forestry here at the college too. So here's a cute little thing, and it's got these concentric circles in it. Each one is an annual growth ring. Now, this one happens to be extra tiny because this tree grew really slowly. But, most trees, you can actually see the rings in there. And each one is laid down in a year. And the more the tree grows, the happier it is, the thicker the ring. The main climate-related problem was these are newcomers to North America, to the Northeast. They're used to England and Western Europe. And the climate there is actually unusually mild for the latitude, the line around the world that we're on, halfway between the pole and the equator. Well, it's milder, so they thought it would be like that here too, and it's not. They got here thinking it was going to be European winters, and they got New England winters.
And this time of year, many people use social media to keep in touch with family and friends. Some people even get their weather information from social media, but not all the posts are accurate or responsible. Meteorologist Audrey Lay shows us how to verify sources and explains why checking credentials is so important.
If you've ever been on social media, you've probably seen a dramatic snowfall map, or a post about deadly snow flurries, or my personal favorite, a Midwest hurricane. Maybe you take them with a grain of salt, but if someone like Grandma or Aunt Sally sees it, they're going to be calling you, asking if they need to cancel their holiday plans or doctor's appointment. Meanwhile, most of these posts don't even come from a real meteorologist, and yet they go viral. Anyone online can screenshot a single forecast model and write a long post claiming a big storm is coming. But a forecast model isn't a forecast. It's just a tool us meteorologists use. When we see big snow amounts, a cold snap, or a storm brewing 10 days out, a lot of times we say, probably not. That's because we have the expertise to know when a model may be overreacting. Before you believe a Blizzard 2.0 post on social media, check the source. Take my social media page, for example. My name is listed as meteorologist Audrey Lee. In the bio, I have Fox 11 WLUK meteorologist. Then there's a link to my station's bio where you'll see I have a degree in atmospheric sciences. But here's where it can get tricky. Even legit sources like NOAA's Climate Prediction Center can highlight potential hazards far in advance. This experimental probabilistic outlook for November 27th through December 3rd shows a slight risk of heavy snow here in Wisconsin. And while technically possible, it's 7 to 10 days away, which means a lot can change. It's a double-edged sword for us meteorologists, wanting to mention what might be coming, the next weather maker, but we don't want to panic the public or Grandma over something still uncertain. The risk is anyone could screenshot this map, post it online, and make it go viral. In today's world with social media and advanced AI, you have to stick with trusted sources such as National Weather Service Office and your local meteorologist because you can't believe everything you see on the internet.
And when it comes to weather, one thing we can trust is that the coming months will bring colder temperatures. Now's the perfect time to make sure your car is ready for winter. Meteorologist Donnie Cox spoke with a mechanic to find out what you should do, how to avoid issues down the road.
Some of the things you need to check are right under the hood. That may be important in deciding how safe your trip is as you make your winter travel. My good friend Ron Thompson from Black's Tire is here, and Ron, one thing you need to do is just make sure everything underneath to start with. Each year the cars are better and better, but it still could create a problem if you have a hole in the exhaust system.
If there's an exhaust leak that could make its way into the cockpit of the car and cause
carbon monoxide issues. Antifreeze is very, very important, especially during winter weather. You want to make sure that it's tested by a professional.
The hoses, you want to make sure they're in proper working order.
Very important, Donnie. You want to make sure that there's no leaks or damage or any ruptures to anything to protect the engine against any damage. It's extremely important, especially during the winter months, to make sure that the battery is in good order. The washer fluid is very important, and you want to make sure that it's rated for winter weather as well.
And of course, after you finish under the hood, you do want to look at the windshield wipers because that goes along with making sure that you're prepared to keep the windshield clean.
I want to make sure that there's no cracks or tears and there's no smudges as far as it makes its way to the glass. Very important during winter weather.
How's an easy way to check your tire tread before you leave?
The easiest way to check would be with an actual tire gauge. This is going to give you your tread depths in 30 seconds to where it's a safe condition. Now, something you can do at home, Lincoln's Head is right at about 230 seconds on a professional gauge. So it's a really simple way for you to check to make sure that your tires are safe.
So as you head into the winter months, everybody just needs to remember, make sure that your car's safe.
Only takes a couple of minutes, and it's extremely important during winter weather.
And when the weather turns cold, you may hear meteorologists talking about wind chill. What does it exactly mean? Meteorologist Teresa Carter explains.
The wind chill temperature is how cold people and animals feel when outside. You may also hear meteorologists refer to this as the feels like temperature because essentially the wind chill is how cold it actually feels on your skin when the wind is factored in. When the winds are light, it will feel closer to the actual air temperature. In this example, 20 degrees. As the wind increases, it draws heat from the body, driving down skin temperature and eventually the internal body temperature. Therefore, the wind makes it feel much colder. For example, if the temperature is 20 degrees and the wind is blowing at 20 miles per hour, the wind chill is 4 degrees. Now, dress properly for the cold weather. People and animals exposed to extreme cold are susceptible to frostbite and can succumb to hypothermia in minutes.
And it's time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over Utah.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. With the snow that we've had in the northern plains moving its way from Minnesota into Wisconsin and the UP today, a couple rain showers in the Ohio Valley kicking out of here. We'll have lake effect snow on the east and southeast side of the Great Lakes over the next several days. A lot of sunshine out across the plains and cold. As we continue on into your Friday, our next weather maker starts moving into the northern plains with snow.
I'm meteorologist Chris Suchet. Look at our forecast across the region. A bit of a calmer day compared to what we had on Monday with those heavy thunderstorms. That old front is out over the Gulf now, moving out of the region. There is another front that's dropping south, and by Wednesday morning, it'll be in deep South Texas with showers and thunderstorms. Otherwise, behind that front, a little bit cooler, a little windy at times, breezy. Temperatures will be in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And of course, this is travel day Wednesday. And that'll take us into Thanksgiving. We'll really have a great looking day across the region.
Well, hi there and a happy Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, the rain continues to slink on into parts of Oregon and Northern California. Cooler, but at least a little drier today between Seattle and Spokane after a really tough Tuesday for travel there across I-90. 70 sounds just right around Phoenix. How about 49 out of Denver? Snow pushing into parts of the Bitterroots and on into Yellowstone later today as well. And that's the scene from here.
I'm meteorologist Sean Kelly here at KUTV2 News in Salt Lake City, Utah, and you are watching the National Weather Desk.
And this time of year is when some areas of the country start seeing something called an inversion. Utah meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains what they are and why they can be bad news for our health.
An inversion happens when you have a ridge of high pressure sitting overhead. A ridge of high pressure gives you sinking air, which traps the most dense air molecules or the coldest air molecules down here at the valley floor. And then you get a warm layer of air up above it. Because the warm air is less dense, it sort of acts like the lid on a pot. It keeps that cold air down here in the valleys. So anything we put out into that cold layer gets stuck. And so we tend to see that layer of haze along the valley floor, and our air quality goes downhill because of the pollutants that we put out there into the atmosphere, which can't rise like they normally can in a normal atmosphere. So this is an inverted atmosphere. When it gets warmer, the higher up you go.
If you're looking for more weather content like this, be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. And we'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great day. Have a happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for the National Weather Desk.